Hello everybody, this is Brian for Breaking Down Security. This week, you're going to hear part 2 of our discussion with Nicole Schwartz, circuitswan on Twitter. We're going to talk, last week was all about the Diana Initiative and the events that are going on and how to promote diversity and inclusivity in your conference. This week, we're going to be discussing a couple of different things. Most people you talk to on Twitter have made comment about the talent shortage, whether real or implied, in the media about, there's a lack of quality people to fill jobs. I believe it's a more pragmatic approach that companies don't know how to hire. And so we talked with Nicole this week because it started out as a segue because they do mock interview and resume reviews at Diana Initiative. Incidentally, Brakesec Slack also does resume reviews, and we can do mock interviews as well if you're interested in doing that and you can't get to a conference. So we started out by asking the questions about, mock interviews and such this week, talking about job descriptions and words that are in job descriptions that are non-starters for a lot of people or make people feel like, well, they want a rock star, they want a thought leader, or they want a guru or somebody like that. And that causes them to think, well, I'm not a guru. InfoSec and many people in our industry have a imposter syndrome kind of thing, and those words tend to help exacerbate the problem. So this week we're going to talk about job descriptions, better ways of hiring people, modifying those job descriptions accordingly, and what you can do to help with that. Finally, the last bit we talk about is some of the work at Gitlabs from an agile or a DevOps point of view, what Gitlabs does to help shore up or secure the environment. It's not a sponsored podcast, but I was genuinely interested because we've done a lot of work this year talking to people about Kubernetes security and DevOps. And, we don't get a lot of discussions with the vendors because often they want a quid pro quo kind of thing. But since Nicole works for GitLab, I thought we would just pick her brain a little bit and ask her about what what GitLab does in terms of, helping to secure your DevOps line. So yeah, it's not a sponsored talk. If you're vehemently against listening to it, you can stop when we start talking about that. But it's fairly interesting. We don't, they're not the best, they're not the only game in town, but they were the game that was on the show at the time. If anybody else is interested in coming on and talking about how they can help improve security in the DevOps environments or the Agile environments, we look forward to your emails and comments. One other thing I want to mention also before we go, some housekeeping. Layer8 conference is they're looking for people for scholarships to attend layer8con. Layer8con is a social engineering and OSINT focused conference. They will be having their conference June 6th, 2020, which is a Saturday at the Rhode Island Convention Center. They are on Twitter at WorkshopCon, or you can go to www.workshopcon.com/events for the Layer8 conference, or you can go to layer8conference.com. One of the organizers, Patrick, wants people to send an email to sponsors at layer8conference.com. Again, with a number, not EIGHT. If you're interested in sponsoring, the sponsorships they're going to hand out or award will be to underserved or underrepresented or minority groups. If you send a tweet to WorkshopCon with the hashtag #SendMeToLayer8, number 8 again, they'll select folks from those tweets, and you can get a ticket to go to Layer8con. So that's pretty awesome. And also, I keep adding the one more thing. I'd like to thank Michael K. For donating to our Patreon. He helped us out by, giving us a little bit every month from the tip jar. Into the tip jar for hosting fees, the effort and time to put out a podcast, to record, to do this intro, for instance. This is about take 4 of the intro right now. Matter of fact, I'm redoing it on a Wednesday morning because I listened to it from Tuesday night and it just wasn't good. So it does take time and effort to do that. and I appreciate Michael for helping us out with that. So, all right, on to the show. That was it for this week. I'm going to go ahead and let the show get started. And for the U.S. folks, have a happy Thanksgiving. And for the rest of the world, have a happy Thursday and Friday. So we talked about the career area. We talked about, mock interviews, which I don't ever know if my mock interview with somebody is actually doing them any good, but they tell me that it is, but I don't know. So something I heard, I went to TAG Northwest, which is Technology Alliance Group Northwest. It's a conference that's been going on apparently up here for the last 3-4 years. They invited me to speak. My next question was really, and why? And because they wanted me to come and talk about community building, which I've done one or two, and Meetup and the Slack. One of the talks that I had heard was from a person who was talking about job descriptions and how and apparently this is a huge thing. The job descriptions, depending on the words that are in it, can be off-putting for folks. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. There's a couple of links in our show notes for that. So, one of the things that came up was rockstar was something that was considered a gendered word.
So there's some that are considered gendered, but there's also some that are considered over the top. Mm-hmm. And so if you take anyone with a little bit of do I belong, which I'm sure most people at some point have had. We all see everyone melting down on Twitter about, do I really belong here? Or am I an imposter?
Okay.
So if you take that and you say, we need the best, we need the rock star, we need the superstar, you are automatically taking all those people who have self-doubt, mm-hmm. and they're going to talk themselves out of applying, and you are losing the opportunity to interview those people, and they might be amazing and just have a little bit of problems believing that they're amazing. You also tend to get the people who sometimes think that they are amazing and they might not actually be amazing.
Yep, that's exactly the kind of person that's gonna attract.
And so it is best to use, and there's a couple different ones out there, but use a gender decoder / job wording reviewer. There's apps out there that are paid and unpaid, and they'll help you find some words which do tend to, at least, now here's the thing, most of the studies that I've seen, if anyone reads, and I'm sure you can stick it in the show notes, my Women in Technology talk that I gave at Diana 2018, I have a lot of resources linked in there, and some are studies. So in North America / some of Europe, there are certain terms that just convey gender because of the way that they've been used over time. Not that they are gendered, but that because of the biases everyone has from the way that they were raised, you immediately feel this is a more masculine role or a more feminine role. And people won't even realize it, but they'll be less inclined to think they fit that description if you have a strongly male or strongly female bias to the wording. Mm-hmm. If you can try and keep it in the middle and have some male and some female, or keep it as neutral as possible, you will have a better pool of applicants applying. You also want to go ahead and make sure that when you say something's a requirement, it is actually a requirement. If you have some things that are bonuses, list them as nice to have or bonuses. And so you will get a better pool of applicants in general if you can follow those guidelines, and that does tend to lead to a more diverse pool of applicants as well, because for everyone who has imposter syndrome, people of color and women do tend to have it more, and so you're automatically getting less of them who are applying for your positions.
Okay. Yeah, the speaker that I heard, she'd said that some people will look at a job description and see 10 items. Historically, and what they've seen is, guys will look at it and say, well, I fit 4 of these, I'm just going to shotgun it over, where somebody else might say, well, I fit 8 of these, but I don't fit the other 2, so I'm not going to apply. which in some cases they may be the better option for it, but because like you said with imposter syndrome, or they're taking the description so literal that they there's no room for error here. They don't think it'll make it past the HR screen or what have you, that they don't apply. So
must have a college degree.
Which there's a hack to that. If your company or local, or you can afford it, will cover one course, just take one course a year. Because if you can say, I'm working on, it doesn't matter if it's going to take you 20 years to finish. If you can say, I'm working on my bachelor's, you'll actually get past a lot of the automated screening.
Mm-hmm.
You will have to answer to the in-people screenings, but a lot of them are going to be more flexible than the automated systems. So if you're currently in a position where either you can afford to, or you have a job that will cover at least one, course per year, do that. Nice. It is an amazing hack. You may not be looking for a job right now, but you don't know when you're going to need to look for one.
So I'm working on my master's. I just need to start taking a class. So
just take one a year. And then this way you're not, I forget what they call it, but you haven't gone idle.
Right.
You're doing it while having a job. So obviously, there's a lot of things to worry about.
Yeah. I think one of the gentlemen who was speaking at the conference, he was a doctor, and he's like, yeah, it took me 8 years to get my degree. And I'm like, oh, okay. Then I'm pretty good. Still got a few years before I can start on mine. But yeah, okay. Let me see. Including nice to haves. Let me see. See, I don't attach gender to ninja. I assume that most ninjas could kick my ass anyway, regardless of gender or genderless. So,
they're in all black clothing. You can't see their faces.
That's right, and there were pirates of all genders in old timey days too. So let me see. Avoid using corporate speak and jargon, KPIs, procurement, SLAs, P&L, and so on. Well, those are mostly management terms, if I can be honest. But
yeah, well, even for example, if I wanted to talk about a data lake and I just said and secure data in the lake or whatever, I should be a little more specific. I'm looking for someone specifically with Spark and Hadoop.
Right.
You should be specific to what you want. Otherwise, it is your own fault when you get a whole bunch of resumes that are not at all what you wanted. So specific, clear, avoid acronyms, which is really great for all text communication anyway, whether it's a job description or not.
Very cool. Okay. Call out any inclusive benefits like parental leave or childcare subsidies. That's pretty good. This was from business.linkedin. So that was a pretty good example. It makes me want to go back and look at our job descriptions in my office and see what we're hitting with regards to any words that are buzzy.
This is great because I never thought of wording your job description in such a way that you don't get candidates who think very, very highly of themselves. That's the kind of people that I don't want to work with. People who think more of themselves than anyone else.
And I feel like sometimes people make those job descriptions and they think like they're being clever or funny and don't realize that you're going to people that don't realize that, or they may actually think that they need a rock star.
Yeah. The rock star thing. I got hit by a PR company that wanted one of their people to come on the show, and he was a rock star thought leader. And I was like, yeah, that's 2 strikes. And blockchain. Okay, strike 3. Anyway, so cool. So
and to your point about benefits, there are a lot of companies who will say, we hire diversity. And then when you go look at their advertised benefits, it may be only a maternity leave. There may be no paternity leave, which you're not being very inclusive, are you? Are you including it if someone adopts?
Right.
Or is it just for, natural birth? There's so many things that you will out yourself as not being a great company for a diverse set of humans by just looking through your benefits.
Yep. There's a company that up here in the Seattle area that also does things like adoption fees. They'll pay for the adoption fees if you're wanting to adopt a child as well, and then give parental leave to go spend time to bond with said child, which is pretty awesome. So I would say if you know, if you're HR, see the problem is it seems like HR people need to hear this podcast because InfoSec people, some of them get it. And, you know, CISOs out there, you know, they're trying their best to find people, period. But
so at least in my experience, I have always been able to, as a hiring manager, go to HR with a job description and say, this is what I'm thinking, you know, can you do the tweaks that you're going to do and let me see it before you post it? And then I'll talk through, if they add things I don't like, I'll talk through specifically why I don't like them. In some cases, they're literally grabbing it boilerplate from some other department within the company, or some other thing that they saw on a job posting board. And they're like, well, everybody else with this job has that. And it's like, well, this is why we specifically don't want to be just like everyone else and have it as well. And so sometimes having that conversation and educating them, or maybe sending them this article when you send your revisions, is helpful. Like, they would like you to get the people that you want to hire so that they don't have to keep calling 50 billion people all the time. And so if you can explain clearly to them why and give them the articles and tools that you're using, they're usually pretty cooperative. And especially, there's a bunch of great talks by Krenner and yes, it's Kathleen about from kind of a corporate perspective of why volunteering at information security conference is something you should encourage your employees to do, and why it's something you as an employer should like see as a good thing on a resume, and other tips and tricks. So sending videos of that maybe over to your HR people.
Cool. Yeah, I'll make sure I
talk about requirements and nice to haves, because I see a lot on job descriptions where they'll say, hey, this is required. And then I don't know the words they use for nice to haves. It's mainly such and such as a plus, or whatever. Do you want to to list those nice to haves and separate them from requirements, or is the nice to have kind of implied based on the requirements?
So I've always gone for more clear than not, just because as someone who's a bit aspy, making things ridiculously clear makes my life easier. And I feel that other people the same. And so if I can have a short list of 4 or 5 requirements and clearly say, these are the requirements, all of these are bonuses, or, you know, will give you a strong preferential treatment. And then this way people will know. The other way you can do it sometimes is if it's an either or situation. So you could say, I would either like a bachelor's or 5 years in the industry. I would either like knowledge of this particular coding language or this one, because it's close enough and we could train you. So if it's, instead of a nice to have, it's an alternative choice, you could also just put it in the same line item.
I think the only other thing I'd like to see on all job descriptions is salary range.
So I'm just going to plug GitLab right here.
Okay.
You can go to GitLab. Our employee handbook is completely public, and all of our salary ranges are completely public. You can type in what job you're planning to apply for, where you live, and we will tell you exactly the range in which you will make.
Nice.
See, that's a tough one, because I think that women in general tend to move towards the less risky, and they'll say a lower salary range and not take that risk to saying a higher one, because, okay, you might be discounted from the very beginning outright and there's no room for negotiation, right? What's your advice in that scenario?
I wish I could remember who posted this thread, but the answer is don't ever give a number. Or if you're forced to give a number, lie. Cindy Gallup, actually. So that she has a bot, I think, on Facebook that helps you prepare for negotiating a salary, and it's meant for women. And basically her advice is look up the salary range for your position and your experience level, and then figure out the highest number you can say without laughing, and say it enough times until you stop laughing, and use that as your opening number if you have to have a number. But in as many cases as possible, say, I'm not comfortable discussing that right now. Or, you know, I really would like to find out more about your benefits first. It's, as a person who has done hiring at multiple companies, it is not a turnoff.
I found that chat bot link. I posted it in the show notes.
So Now, if when we get to the point that I'm giving you an offer and I now say, I'm, looking for this position, we'll say it's a band this or a tier this, and you'll make between 50 and 85. You then need to tell me that is below what I can make. And you need to be honest. If you know that you have to make 150 a year because you have kids and a mortgage and whatever else in the area that you're living, you need to say, like, I would love to have that job, but I honestly can't accept something that low, as great as your perks are. And so they should be coming at you with a range if they won't come at you with a specific number by kind of the middle to end of the process, just to make sure they're not wasting their time putting together a formal offer. And at that point, you may need to give a number, but that number can be a range. Now, don't give me an insanely large range, but give me a range that is reasonable for the position and your experience level, and that is within the bounds of what you'll accept. And what I want everyone to do is do a budget, figure out what you need to make, and then add 10% or 15%, because you really should have money in savings. So that number is now your minimum. Don't take lower than that and use that as the lowest part of your range, absolute lowest part of your range, if you are forced to give a range. But until the very end, just be like, I was kind of wondering what range you were thinking of, or, I've heard that the industry is, and make sure you start with your lowest number between X and Y. Is that going to align with what your company is willing to offer?
Now, some recruiters and hiring managers use the tactic of, well, we have bonuses too. So you can, 10,000 is a good bonus number. So we need to bump your salary 10,000 lower, and you should accept that.
Nope. I will tell you now, and I have done this. I have made that mistake. I will not make that mistake again. What is your minimum? That has to be your minimum. Don't include bonuses in the minimum. Now, if they meet your minimum and there's some bonuses and whatever, like, that's amazing. That's great. Maybe you didn't quite get, a bit more, which is what everyone always wants. But, your minimum is what you need plus 15%. And that needs to be the base salary. It can't include bonuses. It can't include commissions. It can't include any of stock options. Stock options, like, they count as zero.
That's right. Yeah. Till the IPO or, until they vest, you have to be there long enough for it to matter. So,
and it sounds terrible. And honestly, one of my friends I gave this advice to, a offer was pulled from her, and she was kind of really upset about it, and she was agonizing over it. And then later we found out more about the company. It really was not somewhere she wanted to be, and she was kind of relieved. And so if a company is not willing to even work with you on a range and a minimum, is that really somewhere you want to be? Are they actually trying to make sure that you can cover your costs of living and be worried about doing your job instead of being worried about paying your bills?
Yeah, I had the same situation where I knew somebody that was working there already. And they're like, well, don't take less than this. Like, all right, well, that's way more than I would have asked for. So I'll make sure to ask for that. And they wanted to lowball me by like 30%. I'm like, no, I think I'm going to have to back out.
Wow.
And this is a fact. 3 companies that I've worked for, I get in there, and a lot of the my coworkers say, oh, well, last year we got such and such bonus. And all 3 times we get far less than what they got before. Right? So whenever they say, oh, we're going to get a $10,000 bonus, it could be more. You're lucky to get 5,000. That's been my experience.
Sometimes it is more. But if the company is growing and it has more and more employees and there's only X amount of bonus pool and the company is growing, that money, it may be more money that coming year, but it may be divided by more people.
Right.
So we've been talking about job descriptions, and I just wanted to see what GitLab is, if they practice and what they preach. So there's a job I was looking at, not because I was interested in it at all. Sorry, boss. Senior Director of Security and Department of Engineering. They have responsibilities, sample initiatives, must have skills and experience. So you must have 45 years of, no, I'm just kidding. They only have 10 years of prior experience. You must have 45 years of experience with Windows 10 and 10 years.
15 years of Splunk experience.
That's right.
75 years Splunk experience.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, 10 years of experience.
I mean, honestly, that's not far off.
There's truth under that witticism.
Ouch.
Yeah. So just 10 years of experience with managing IS teams, which is fair. Excellent written and verbal skills. I write good, so you can put me in as a reference. Able to quickly hire top quality individuals. Okay. All right. Experience managing multi-level security organizations, collaborating with groups outside of engineering, sales, legal, people, ops, and finance. Excel in a remote-only multicultural distributed environment. I'm hearing a lot of early and nighttime calls there. So
depending on your position, we are mostly as asynchronous as we can get. And so we are globally distributed. I have a developer who's in Australia. We mostly communicate by Slack. Whenever I get his message, I respond during my working hours and vice versa. Okay. So there are definitely companies where that is code. And I 100% think that if you see those things, you should investigate and talk to people who work there. So in our particular case, we try to mitigate it by always making sure there's not a sense of urgency. Right. Unless someone specifically says this is an emergency, you must respond. It is assumed you can respond during your working day.
Yeah. What I found interesting was you have all of the people skills as the must-haves, at least, and that makes sense for senior director of security. And the nice-to-have skills is all the technology stuff. Working knowledge.
Technology changes.
Right. Yeah, so you've got SaaS experience, experience with customer scale services, deep open source or OSS experience. So all of the technology and software and all that stuff. Government clearance would be nice. I used to have one. I don't have one anymore. But yeah, all that technology stuff is a nice to have, and the people skills in this case for this job is what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody who can speak well and write well, can get along with others. Be able to work remote only, which I've done for the last 3.5 years before I started working in my current job. And then having some skill, and really the only real technical thing is the compliance stuff. So that's a really nice one. I mean, I don't see any reason why, somebody with any manager experience and, would look at the must-haves and go, yes, I could definitely apply for that. So that's nice.
We do try, and we actually occasionally catch ourselves not succeeding and call each other out and fix things. So yeah, I really like that people are trying to actively keep us aligning with our values of transparency and being honest.
That's cool. Yeah. So speaking of GitLab, gonna segue over here just for a real quick moment. They're not paying us for this, but we do a lot of stuff with Git DevOps. We've talked about Sec DevOps quite a bit this year with Kubernetes and with Ian Coldwater and Jay and them. What exactly does GitLab do?
So we do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Is the short answer. The slightly longer answer is, if your development team would like to use us as your DevOps pipeline, we can help you with managing your bugs and issues, which is our plan stage. Then we'll help you be your repository, which is our create stage. So write your code, collaborate on it. And then we'll help you to test and deploy that in our CI/CD stage. So we've got something that'll help you do automatic regression testing. We've got security testing, and then we'll help you deploy. And that's our release stage. And we've just kind of hatched our baby new stage, Defend, which is my partner team. And it is a very fun group of individuals. We're trying to do WAF and container network storage and everything. So since we know a lot about your deployment, we also want to help you monitor and protect that deployment. And so my specific group in there is the security scans. And we've got SAST, DAST, dependency scanning, license, compliance, secrets detection, and the whole goal of GitLab, so all of those little pieces, is that it should be one login instead of 50 billion logins to do your workflow. And not only should it be one login, but in a smooth flow throughout, but it should be as boring and easy as possible. So you're thinking about the work you're doing, not how to get the system to do what you want it to do.
Okay. So it's more automated than a Jenkins or something like that, then, is what you're saying.
Well, you don't have to like take your Jenkins and shove it into somewhere and connect it and whatever. So you're still gonna have to like write your tests. But we've got a test suite that's equivalent to that.
Okay. And secrets.
And so it's all one login baked in. You don't have to integrate anything.
I see. So the dependency stuff is great because we've had numerous discussions about Node.js vulnerabilities and dependency issues and dependency hell there. Secrets detection, I'm assuming that's to make sure that your developers don't accidentally upload their API keys or passwords?
Yes, it's limited in scope right now, but our support team wrote a really awesomely crazy but slightly slow script that will crawl through everything you ever wrote and every merge request, whether or not it got merged in, to look for any potentially released key or token. And so we're considering putting that in as an alpha, just because it does take a while to run. And then if everybody is enjoying it, clean it up and make it a little bit better.
Hey, and Mr. Betcher, they have a free tier there. So, you could set up your CI/CD pipeline for LogMD. They got static analysis tools too.
So right now for the free tier, our security scans are not included.
Oh.
That will change in the next few months. Our SAS scan will become part of the free tier. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, I don't know how many security tools you have integrated. It is not fun or a barrel of monkeys. So as of right now, while we were doing initial development, they're kind of in the paid tier, but we're working to drop down as many as possible into the free tier. But that's kind of once we get it kind of ironed out. And so SAST is going to be the first one coming down, and that's in progress right now. Well, and if you want to be an open source project, though, you can be free and get all the perks.
That's awesome. He's the lead developer. He's also the lab manager, and he brings donuts on Fridays. So he's got a lot of hats. So if we could get him on the free tier, that would be best, I think. So.
And you can run the free tier as a SaaS or on-prem, depending on your need for control.
There you go.
Very nice.
Love on-prem.
Weird.
You guys want to talk about resumes?
A little bit. What's our time look like? Let me see. Yeah, we're at an hour. We can go a little long. All right. Okay, resumes. What is it? I just wanted to add a little spot.
What is
there.
A resume?
How does one write a resume? So it sounds like it's in reverse though with resumes. We were talking about the job description stuff, having certain words that are off-putting. Do you want to not do the same thing in your resume?
So I will find my ShellCon talk and make it available, but I wouldn't say there's particular words that you should avoid in your resume per se, but you should mimic the language of the job you're applying for is definitely one of the hints. Okay. So the first thing is everyone should have a master CV that includes everything you ever did with all of the things that you did, no matter how relevant or irrelevant you think it is. And it should be a bajillion pages. Oh. And for each one of those bullet points, you should make sure to talk about what you did, why you did it, and what was the outcome. So for example, I did phone support for enterprise customers, and all my enterprise customers gave me an NPS score of 4.5 or whatever, and just have all of those details in the giant master resume. Mm-hmm. Then every time you're applying for a job, take a copy of that resume, the most recent master copy, and chop out everything that is not relevant to the job that you're applying for. So look at what they want and kind of read a little bit between the lines and be like, well, they're looking for network stuff, so I'll make sure all my network stuff's included in here. Chop out everything else. You don't need it. It's not relevant. They probably don't care. Then if they use a particular term, mimic the term back at them. This is especially important if you're applying for anything in the public sector. And so if they say we want someone who has extensive networking knowledge, say, I used my networking knowledge to build this network. So whatever their terms were, reflect their terms back, because you don't know whether that's an automated filter that they're actually using, or if it's just that's the term that they use and that's what they're going to recognize. They're not going to read your whole resume to start. They're going to scan it really fast. So by mimicking their own terminology, you're going to have more of a chance of them understanding what you're trying to convey. So once you've chopped your master resume down, mimic their terminology back at them, make sure it's a reasonable, like some people swear it can only be 1 page. There are some companies where that is a rule. Most of the places I've been at, if you've been in the industry long enough, like you could have 2 pages, maybe 3 if like you've got a ton of relevant experience, but I don't want to see the stuff that's not relevant. Just that's in your LinkedIn, and give me a link to your LinkedIn at the top if I want to dig in more.
How far back should one go on work history, especially if it has meaning? Like, let's say you've been a PM for 20 years. Should you put all of your PM 20 years worth of experience, or just say more can be found here?
So in your master CV, yes, have all of it.
Right.
In your summary, if it doesn't fit into like a reasonable 2 pages, you can definitely add a line and say, I also was a PM at X, Y, and Z through this year span. So you can kind of give them a hint. And then if you've got your LinkedIn at the top, they can go dig in for more. But I would definitely make sure you're at least calling it out in there that like, not only do I have all this experience, but I have a whole bunch more that I'm not even going to bother you with because it was just, so long ago.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm looking through your show. Are you giving this oh wait, ShellCon already happened, yeah?
ShellCon happened and I did give it.
Okay.
And that link is publicly accessible. I gave a similar talk, I believe, at DefendCon over the lunch break. It was slightly shorter, but similar content.
Okay.
The resume villages and mock interviews and all this kind of stuff definitely, I think, is needed more at conferences. It seems to be something that people struggle with all the time.
Right.
And lots of people
I will admit,
look past it.
I struggle with it and I give advice, and it is so much easier for me to look at somebody else's resume and rip it to shreds.
Yes.
And then when I look at mine, I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love on your slide 12, it says have a your face boring photo. So obviously I can't have my spring break photo where I'm getting a tattoo or something. And okay. Note taken. I've been working with a friend of mine on Slack looking for a position. He is very talented. He just doesn't have a lot of experience in InfoSec, and he's not the only one. I've talked to a couple of folks who have been trying to break in InfoSec, and it's the one thing I try to stress to them is if they're in IT and have any experience with IT, they're doing security. It's just how you frame your experience in a security, point of, area. So, if you are doing Active Directory and if you're provisioning users, you have to do role-based access controls, or if you're, defragging hard drives, or you're running patches, you're doing vulnerability management. So there's a lot of ways that you can, show that you're doing InfoSec related, items in an IT type environment. Ms. Berlin, I know you've, sorry, Mr. Betch, you had a point?
Well, CV, right? Mm-hmm. I've never heard of that before, so I had to Google it.
Curriculum vitae.
Yeah, it's Fern. So it's basically a career management document.
Right.
What you want to do is not have a resume that's 10 pages long. It's okay to have a career management document that's 10 pages long, but then when you build a resume, like Nicole said, tailor-made for this job you want, you pick pieces out of your career management document to build that resume. So you don't have to start all over or add to it from scratch or whatnot.
Right.
You're basically copying and pasting onto a resume, and then you send it out to that job. And your resume may be completely different based on whatever job you're applying to. Let's say you apply to 3 jobs at the same time. You pick and choose what you want out of your career management document, and it doesn't take as long. And you didn't forget, I did some of that they're requiring 3 jobs ago, but it's not on my current resume because I had too much stuff and I had to get rid of it. And then it's gone forever. So you keep that career management document up to date. It doesn't matter how long it gets.
Yep. So Nicole, you're muted, by the way. We lost her for a second, but she's back on. It's okay.
They're the power of cell phones.
I love it. Your audio sounds great. Sounds awesome. So we were talking about how to frame things. So if you're in IT, you've been doing security, you just have to know how to frame it. Mr. Betcher, one of the things you just brought up about, I actually didn't know about the whole master CV thing. I had always assumed that people were crazy when they were telling me I needed to create a custom resume for each job. And I'm like, how do I do that? That would take me forever to write up a new resume for every job that I have. But having like your kitchen sink resume that you can just pick and choose from makes complete sense for me. So when I start looking for another job in a long time, then
you will now be ready.
Exactly.
I just tell people I'm on this podcast, and then I don't need a resume.
Now that's a filthy lie. That people turn away when they hear that.
Flat out say, nope, never mind.
Nope. Denied. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200.
Okay. So a pet peeve of mine when I read resumes is that most people don't understand the difference between accomplishments and responsibilities. So I read a resume and all it's got is responsibilities on it. Mm-hmm. Now it sounds great on the surface, but you could have been the worst possible employee at that job and just list all the things you were responsible for. And it sounds okay.
Failed doing.
Right.
Yeah. And so me reading that resume, I'm like, what did you actually do? Nothing, moving on. Right. Yeah.
The other one that I've seen, and I saw that at a couple, I actually did a couple at TAG as well. Somebody was like, hey, please look at my resume. He was a college student, and he had opinion words, like, energetic self-starter, I'm influencing, people at my school. I'm like, are you? If those opinion words are great, And
I feel like it's hard though when you're first starting out and don't have experience. 100%. You're really trying to pad your resume with stuff.
Right.
That's like when I see people that have a 2-page resume, and tell me if you agree with this or not, because I'm really curious. They have like a 2-page resume and they still include a paragraph like about themselves or what they're looking for, or the paragraph that I always skip over because I don't care what's in it.
Wow, man. Hard interview.
I usually tell people to leave that out because I just want to know, like, it doesn't include any information that you're not going to tell me if you get the interview, and that's not going to help. I've never made a decision to give somebody an interview based on that little paragraph.
I think for me, it would depend on the length. Like if you're giving me a sentence that's actually specific and not fluff,
right?
Like, I have always enjoyed project management, and I'm super excited to check out the telecom space. Whatever, like short, specific, and relevant to the position. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. They know exactly what they're getting into. They haven't just given me a generic resume. But sometimes, you get like a little mini life story, and I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with this.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to know that you went to Mexico or, you enjoy world travel necessarily in the very much your goal. I want to be able to work and travel the world. Okay, well, maybe you just take the world traveler bit off. I mean, we do have a fairly generous vacation package, but, doesn't tell me much other than, you like to travel. So, I appreciate people, talking about themselves in a, because it saves me time having to OSINT them or whatever. I like to know if they've spoke at a conference or if they've been to Abu Dhabi or, been someplace interesting, but not necessarily being on the first page, the one thing that gets me, and I've seen a couple of these, was the military resumes, like somebody who's getting right out of the military. I can see those things a mile away, and I'm like, oh God, they really fucked you over, didn't they? They need to. They need to.
It depends if they're going into, trying to get a job in the public sector.
Yeah. TAP TAP is the program you go to when you're getting out or you're separating from the military. At least it was for the Navy. I don't know if the Army or Air Force, Marines, or whatever your branch of the military or country has. But they didn't, in my opinion, when they taught it to me, they didn't teach me very much on how to write a proper resume. And it was hard. I know it's hard to translate that to a decent, public sector side. Actually, matter of fact, I think I got into a discussion with somebody on Twitter within the last couple of weeks who was trying to find job descriptions for military jobs because, veterans out there have enough problems as it is. So helping to find these job descriptions for certain jobs in the MOSs or ratings in the Navy might help us to start generating public sector versions of those positions, which might actually go and help somebody. So I thought about reaching out to some recruiters that were at our high school here for Veterans Day to see about that. But yeah, the job help and job placement and resume reviews are all very important, regardless of the industry you're in, not just InfoSec. But for some of those folks, they've already got a strike against them because their jobs don't translate well to the public sector. So a lot of great information.
Manager Tools has good podcasts on resumes.
Yep.
Just search for your resume stinks.
Yep.
And
I think that was on they had something similar in Career Tools as well. I was listening to that one as well. It's the same podcast, same company, but a couple of different people. So
Career Tools is a good.
You guys also collect bad resumes, or is that just me?
We have a couple at our office that we've got that I don't even want to talk about them because I think they made it.
Oh yeah,
they're very famous on the internet. So yeah. And they were completely legit. Somebody wanted to work there, and so those folks get weeded out fairly quickly, I would hope. So, or they hopefully get told what they need to work on. So, circuitswan, how are you going to be speaking anywhere else in the near future? Are you going to be at SHMU? Are you going to be at
I am hopefully submitting to SHMU tomorrow or the next day.
Nice.
About tuning. Because a large question that I was getting as a result of my last talk was, okay, that's great. I've got people to turn on scans. And now we have many findings. What do I do?
Yeah. Yeah. The false positive will kill you. So yeah. Or I guess the lack of, the lack of proper negatives too. So, yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping you get accepted for that. And are you going to be at any B-sides or anything before SHMU, or are you done speaking for the year?
So I am done for the year.
Yay.
SHMU will be the next event, and then following that, I'm doing a Doctor Who conference. So
nice. Let me ask you something. You're a PM. You're a PM project manager or product manager?
I am product manager.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Good night. No, I'm just kidding. Product managers have their place too.
Hopefully.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering if there's, do you have conferences other than InfoSec that you go to that, somebody in management might want to go to that you know of, or?
I know that there are actually a lot of, product and project meetups and mini conferences that happen. I tend to go and spend all of my other vacation days on Dragon Con, Gen Con and stuff.
None wrong with that.
So I get the notes from the people who attend in the product and project manager Slacks that I'm in. It's kind of like not going to a hacker conference. You can still watch the YouTube videos and get the notes later. And you're like, okay, I saved my vacation days and I still learned from it.
Project management Slack? Of course there is.
Of course. There's a Slack for everything.
Okay. Yeah. I might want to join that one. I'm working on my contact hours for my PMP, so I need to pick some brains somewhere. Okay. Well, if people wanted to get a hold of you, and congratulations on your nuptials to Mr. Render Man. I met him a couple times at Derby. He's an awesome dude. He's a sharp dresser. I tell you what,
I am responsible for the purple suit, so you can either love me or hate me for that.
No. Oh, we're not worthy. Oh, that was awesome. Where'd you find that?
So it actually was custom made by iTailor.com, and we measured him. I apparently measured him slightly wrong, but we all make mistakes, and ordered it. I got him 2 suits because we believe that power suits in our house mean supervillains. So he has a Loki suit from, the all black New York City scene.
Yeah.
And he has, of course, the Joker.
Yep. Yeah, I love the Joker suit. Yeah. That's awesome. So, y'all are going to be doing an open wedding invite?
Yes. In fact, it's circuitswan and renderman.com or renderman and circuitswan.com, depending on your preference. It's August 1st. So if you're going to Black Hat, you should already be in town, and it's at the end of the day. So you should be able to run over it after the trainings. And anyone who would like to attend can, because as Render likes to say, all hackers are family we just haven't met yet. So y'all are invited.
Very cool.
So do you have like a running bet or stats on whose website gets more hits?
I am not recording that, and now I sort of regret that decision.
That's because I'm competitive with everything, so that's just something I would just want to do.
Well, she always gets top billing.
Well, we actually have 10 different URLs for the website.
Yes.
So.
Oh my goodness. Are you registered anywhere?
I like domain names.
Understood.
No, we're selling tickets to the wedding, and we think that's plenty.
Right on.
So you're helping us pay for security guards and a $2 million insurance policy.
That's a hell of a party.
They apparently think we're going to do some damage.
Oh my. Okay.
They know us.
That's fair. Yeah. Hackers be hacking, so. All right. So, you're at circuitswan on Twitter. And if, anybody is, interested in, discussing, Diana Initiative or DefendCon or anything else with you, you're available for discussion.
Yep, and DMs are open. If they're super weird, I may not answer them.
Maximum blockage.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, be civil and you won't get blocked. Cool. All right, so Ms. Berlin, you were at Secure West Virginia with Mr. Gardner, and you had a great talk, and we are going to be doing that training online with Brakesec. I just don't know when you're going to be available to do that, but we will definitely sell tickets, and we won't record it. That way we can give it multiple times. Yeah.
And why not do it online with us as opposed to paying $4,000 and doing it at Black Hat when we're inevitably selected?
Are you just trying to shoot yourself in the foot here or something?
That's fine.
Okay.
I just feel like everybody that goes to Black Hat doesn't listen.
Oh, I see. Oh God, that hurts me. That hurts me so bad.
No, never mind. That's fine.
No, I get it. No, it's okay. We are not Black Hat material. I know. Some of my worst, some of our worst feedback was it makes me want to go play in traffic. Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's what we're aiming for.
All back.
Yeah.
That's what we're aiming for.
That was before you joined the show, though, Miss Berlin.
I was going to say that's right when I joined.
Yeah. I still can't post on our NetSec because they won't allow me to. But anyway,
if you want to stop traffic, you can just get a 6'6" inflatable unicorn from Target and wander through DerbyCon, and you will stop traffic. Then people can play safely.
That's right. I do remember seeing Mr. Render walking down the street out front of the Hilton or the Hyatt with that next to the Trevor memorial. So that was pretty funny. I love that. Oh man. Anyway, Ms. Berlin, how would people find out about Hackers Health and more about yourself on the social medias?
So Twitter, definitely, at InfoSister or at Hackers Health.
Cool. Okay. Mr. Betcher, you're doing the LogMD stuff. So, how's that coming along?
Pretty good. I was just thinking about the other day, that we added this a long time ago, but have you ever had to look up a bunch of crap in VirusTotal? Like maybe 100, 200, 300 binaries just to see, if there's anything malicious in there. Well, with LogMD Pro, it kind of does that automatically for you. And if you have a private key, it runs them through really quick. But if you don't have a private key, VirusTotal has a limit on how much you can look up. It's 4 per minute. So if you don't have a private key, then LogMD actually times it perfectly. So you can, if you have 1,000 things to look up, you can just set it to run overnight, come back the next day. It'll be all done for you.
So every 15 seconds or so.
Info. Cool.
So every 15 seconds or so, it'll run a lookup.
It'll do another query. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So if people were interested in LogMD, how would they get a hold of you or discuss with that?
Yeah, just go to the website log-md.com, or my Twitter is @Betcherpound, BOETTCHERPWNED.
Right on.
And my DMs are open too, by the way.
Oh, very nice. Swanky. All right. So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Brian Brake, BRYAN, BRAKE. The official Brakesec podcast is at Brakesec, BRAKESEC. I had to explain to a couple people at Tag Northwest why I spelled it wrong. Again, it's only been 6 years. It's only been 6 years. Actually, the biggest thing about Tag Northwest for me was all the people who aren't on Twitter. Because 1, they don't like the drama, and 2, they don't do social media. They just don't do social media, or they're college age, so they're the Vine group or whatever. So I've gotten ahead of them. I joined TikTok. I'm on TikTok.
Did you?
Yeah, my daughter says it's now dead because I'm on TikTok. But yeah, so I try to stay hip. I'm with it. I try to stay up on all the hip trends. But yeah, so been checking out social media. Apparently there is an InfoSec TikTok. I'm not sure how that works. But yeah, we do Slack because most companies do Slack, so it's easier to create a workspace, add a new workspace on Slack than it is to download a Discord or Diaspora or whatever, and use that. So we have over 2,000 accounts, probably about 450 active users, and very, very friendly to people who are trying to get into InfoSec, or we have channels for more technical discussion, red teaming and pen testing, reverse engineering, debugging, sim and logging. We have a regular discussion in there on your Splunks and your logarithms and your all your favorite sims, and threat hunting and threat intel has gotten a bump in popularity just recently too. So pretty much anything you could ever want to talk about GRC and privacy, they're all on there. So you can send us a tweet DM to our Twitter, Brakesec, or you can email bds.podcast@gmail.com. YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel. This show will be up on YouTube. Libsyn does a good job of posting that up for us. We're on iTunes. We get a lot of exposure by showing by reviews the people put up on the various platforms. So if you could take 15 seconds and say, hey, this doesn't completely suck, that would be great. We'd appreciate that. We're on pretty much everything. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play Store, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud. I just submitted us to Pandora, and we're on Player.fm, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and yeah, you can check us out over there. Thank you to our patrons for their support. Helps out with hosting, time and effort building community. And yeah, we appreciate everybody who donates money every month to help out with the show. And there's still plenty of shirts on our TPub store. So if you go to brakesec.com/store, you can find Miss Berlin's face on a t-shirt.
And our logo.
And our logo. The important one is Miss Berlin, though. So
I think you keep on just scaring people off by telling them it's just my face on the store.
Well, one of these days you're going to catch on.
It's novelty.
It's not.
I have one now.
Well, you probably need a different shirt now because your face don't look like that no more. So
you are correct. I need better pictures.
You're all diesel and everything. You're all swole up. You're all swole. So. All right. Well, I think we've talked enough this week. Nicole, thank you for joining us, and hope your
Thank
wedding
you for having me.
I hope your wedding is everything you have hoped it would be and more, with plenty of unicorns and glitter. And that's what you needed $2 million for, is clean up all the glitter when you're done. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we all know how hard that is to get out of carpet.
I don't actually. Is it difficult? Yeah, I imagine so. Anyway, yeah. Is that the 10 out of
Yep, yeah. That's the train.
Yep, mark that off your bingo cards, people. All right, well, that was it for this week on the Breaking Down Security Show. Have a great week. Be kind to one another. Take care of yourself, because you're the only you have, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.